Hi, morning everyone. Let's get going. Okay, so last night's session in U.S. markets was a bit of a wild one. You can see there we opened up pretty sharply down for the most part. In that first half hour of the session, we reversed up in the Nasdaq and then the S&P to positive territory up around maybe an hour and a half into the market. So, it actually had a nice little build, but then it just started to fade from there, and we literally faded into the back half of the session. What's really interesting here, and you rarely see this, is that we took out the lows, of the session after opening low, drifting up into positive territory. We work our way down the whole day. We basically, with an hour and 20 minutes, we're taking out the lows, or hour and a half left in the day, we'd start taking out the lows. And then, for whatever reason, there in the last hour of the day, they really came in and bought it. So it's kind of a sort of intraday action that you don't often see. Normally, if you take out the lows there, and especially if you take out the lows that late in the day, you tend to get follow through. We didn't see that obviously yesterday, and Anyway, yesterday was an interesting day because there are so many things moving after the Greece story. I think one of the biggest things that stuck out to me yesterday was the commodity space, and it just got absolutely routed. That was led by oil. Oil had a lot of different reasons to have so much pressure on it. They've got fresh talks of an Iranian deal. You had a crude oil inventory build. You have bigger supply coming out of the Middle East. You've got the China overhang. Obviously, you got the Greece story. So you're getting hit from all sides on crude oil, which was down close to 8%. I mean, it really took a beating yesterday. But we also had a lot of the other ones. I mean, copper was down 3.5% yesterday. It's continuing on this morning, down another 1%. Platinum at one point was down 3%. I think it only finished down 2%, but really under pressure across the board, the entire commodity space. And I think that was really interesting. We didn't see as big of a sell-off in the actual commodities and diversified commodity stocks, but the bottom line is I think that's something to pay attention to. All right, let's move on to the Asian session. A bit of mixed action overnight. Very strong out of Australia. Strong out of the Nikkei as well. I think I'm assuming that Australia was green because they're not hiking rates, and they were worried about a rate hike. Nikkei, I guess, just probably bouncing a little bit because maybe the turnaround in the States and the fact that the yen weakened out a little bit yet last night. Shanghai, another wild session, down 3.5% last I looked. I think that they've put in more measures overnight again to try to curb the descent in the indexes there. The stock markets there, they put in something to try to support some of the smaller caps, because in the prior day session, all of the smaller stocks were all under pressure, and it was only the state-owned because essentially people knew that the government would be there to support them. But I think that that is a disaster, obviously, in the making. We're seeing this unfold. We've been talking about it for probably a year, about that it was going to come at some point. Just be careful of it. Don't get involved in anything that's too attached to them. And we're starting to see that really unfold right now. All right. Chart of interest today is showing the historically how big these recessions or depressions, you could probably call it, have been, the contractions in GDPs over a period of time. So really looking at the Greek situation, is just making the leaderboard here at going from 2008 to now, which the economy shrunk by 25%, which is peanuts compared to what Greece did between 38 and 45, or what Germany did between 45 and 46, and obviously getting close to what the U.S. did in the Great Depression. So when you think about it in that terms of scope, that's pretty impressive. Right, moving on. No corporate action to report today. In terms of market data, we had German industrial production this morning, which is a slight miss, but mostly in line. UK industrial production coming at 10:30 as well as manufacturing production. And then we've got the U.S. trade balance later in the States. Right, let's get into the maps. I don't want to go, too deep into things today with the charts, simply because the volumes haven't been there over the last few sessions. And to be honest, not a lot, I don't think, opened up yesterday. But the first thing I'll show is the S&P. I think if I can just spend a little bit of time around this, the action out of the S&P, I think, was pretty telling. For the first time, you kind of felt like last night the market showed its hand. As we speak, we're about 25 points off of the S&P bottoms from an hour and a half less in the session last night, which is significant. We've bounced over 1% since then already. It kind of happened out of nowhere. But the big thing is that we weren't able to take out this low here. What was it, 5 days ago? So the last time Greece went bankrupt, when they defaulted over the weekend. We had that big down day there. The fact that we couldn't take that out, we literally reversed right off of the 200-day moving average. It did it late in the session. These are all things I think that are really important, and for me, to an extent, the market has shown its hand in that, most all of the sellers that were would-be Greek sellers that were nervous of Greece, that were worried that there is really a real overhang coming because of Greece, most of those guys are out of the way. And to me, that is the first time that we've seen anything in the last couple of weeks for the market to show its hand a little bit. So I think you got to kind of keep that in the back of your mind. That's my opinion. Obviously, maybe it's not the case, but I think most of the longs that were going to get shaken out have probably been shaken out, and the fact that we held those previous lows in the S&Ps last night, I think, is proof of that. So just watch closely. We may start to build into the next couple of sessions if there's nothing else real negative to report. All right, next thing we'll look at this morning is light sweet crude. So you can see here, we really took out the lows a couple sessions ago. I showed you guys this maybe 2 or 3 days ago when we dropped out of support here, and we've been in such a long consolidation, about 2.5, 3 months of consolidation. So we made our lowest level in crude oil in almost 3 months last night, and very quickly coming into support on crude oil. I think I would throw it out around 52, 53. I think the low level is 53. 53 on light sweet crude. So we did drop it, but only by hair. This morning we're kind of flirting right around that number. That's going to be our next big level to have to get through, and if it drops from here, then it's obviously, I think we can get really heavy. But the fundamentals right now, especially starting to get deeper into the U.S. Driving season, and the supply side story tapering down and flattening out a little bit more instead of dropping off a cliff like it was, I think, is yesterday really put a knife in the heart of the bulls and a potential for the rally. All right, the next one I'll look at is Kumba. You can see Kumba coming down to test the lows. So we really spent, I don't know, however many sessions down to right around 128, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 7 or 8 sessions down here in April. Well, we kept trying down around between 128 and 130, and wasn't able to give there, and that's when we got our nice bounce up to, I think we traded almost 200. Anyway, you can see there we're coming right into that level. I would fully expect this level to be tested in size. If you look at the other ones, you look at Exoro, I'm showing this is kind of coming back down there, but we're talking about April lows. These April lows were taken out, and we've even consolidated below. I can look at ARI. Same sort of thing. These April lows were dropped about 10 or 12 trading sessions ago by about 10%. You can look at ASOR as well. April lows taken out. So across the board, really all of them have dropped support. So I don't think any reason why Kumba cannot also drop 128. And if we see a drop of 128, I don't see any reason why we don't test 100. Big round number, maybe just to get there, I don't know. But watch that level closely. Last one I'm going to show is really the main commodity player, I think, that has just managed to weather this entire storm miraculously. I'm going to draw it more like that. There we go. That's Cecil. We've talked about this before. Every time kind of it comes down and starts to test this trend line support, that it manages to find a way to have a big bounce, and out of nowhere it bounces 15 Rand in a day. We basically closed right on support last night. I'd like to see this thing drop 420. As you can see there, that's we had a lot of closes at 420. It really made a major hold in the beginning of June at 420. So I think if we see a drop today, between 425 and 420, it's 1%. It's not a lot in the scheme of things, especially where the target of this thing will be on the downside. But if we get below 420, I think that you can really hit this thing. I don't see any reason why we can't come down and test the lows and maybe even take up the recent lows in Tesla if we drop 420. And that's it for today, guys. Good luck out there.